Hey guys, Jim here. Welcome into Guest Blade episode number 18. What we're going to do tonight is kind of a first. This is the first time I'm going to be doing a guest blade on a knife direct from the maker for the purposes of one of our guest blade videos. To avoid any confusion, I had done one recently from Frank Fisher, Guest Blade episode number 14. That really wasn't a direct from the maker for the purpose of video. It was the person that purchased a knife from Frank wanted me to review it and requested that at the time that he placed his order 6 months prior. And then Frank sent it to me before sending it to the customer. I sent it to the customer, actually. So this is the first one being sent to me directly for purposes of a review slash overview, whatever you want to call them these days. And this is something I'm really happy to do because what we're going to be looking at here is a Darrel Ralph design HTM TAS, Tactical Auto Stiletto. And for those that know me well, know that I've been friends with Daryl now for a number of years. Gosh, 4 or 5 years, something like that. Actually, I think it's been getting a little bit longer than that now. And I have the most profound respect for him as a person, as also for a knife maker. And it's funny that it happened to be this model that he selected to bring out, because I actually own the prototype to this knife right here. This is his custom version in a prototype before he went into making the production version of these and then giving, I don't know about giving, but licensing, I should say, the design to HTM. Now, Daryl is only one of many designers that have had the chance to work with HTM. HTM stands for Hand Tech Made. You can think of it along the lines as mid-tech. Because the person whose name is on the knife does have some degree of involvement, but it is a production facility with the ability to produce mass quantities of a knife instead of each knife being made by hand or finished by hand. It's hard to call an aluminum knife made by hand. Obviously, this was machined out, but all the fitting and everything, all the tweaking was done by Daryl himself on the custom. So, I mean, guys like Kirby Lambert have been involved with HTM. I'm trying to think, there actually there's quite a few, and I'm completely blanking on it right now. But Greg Lightfoot is another that has worked and had HTM designs done. Daryl is a wonderful, interesting fellow. Anybody that's ever met him at a knife show, ever had a chance to talk to him on the phone, knows that he is a guy that is absolutely full of life. He is probably one of the happiest guys you're ever going to meet in your life. And one of the things that for us as collectors that we enjoy about Daryl is the same thing a lot of other makers enjoy about Daryl. He shares his knowledge freely. And he's a wonderful mentor to a lot of makers that are out there right now because, I mean, he's old school, man. He's been in the game for a long-ass time. He's seen the trends come and go. He's seen quote-unquote knife makers come and go, designs come and go. And he's pretty much done it all. I can't believe that there would be a material in existence that Daryl has not worked with. And he's very famous, really, for a lot of the Damascus work that he's done. He uses a lot of Damascus in his work, does some great anodizing, great machining, and he comes up with a very interesting blade profiles. As a quick example, this was another one of his prototypes. He actually gave this to me about 4 years ago, and this is what he calls his Radian blade. And this was his prototype for the Max Q. There you can see that right there. Obviously devoid of any other markings for the production pieces. This is actually one that he carried in his pocket for several months. So, you know, this really cool recurve, somewhat of a tanto blade, compound grind. I mean, he's got some great ideas, great stuff. And he's just an all-around great maker. And what we get a chance to do here is get into a knife that has his design, that has his ingenuity, and the craftsmanship that you would expect at his level without paying that type of price. A standard HTM TAS is about $300. Excuse me, $200. I don't know what it would cost with the lightning strike carbon fiber overlay that's here. I'm sure it raises the price a little bit, but it's still a very affordable way to get into this kind of knife without getting into one of his customs. And you can see by the markings there, this is not an HTM at all. But they have really, they're very, very similar. They're almost identical. They both use about a 3.5 inch, 3.55 inch to be exact, a CPM 154 blade. And I apologize, not CPM, it's just 154 CM, and there is a difference there, so I apologize for that. So you're going to get the 154 CM blade just like you would have in one of the hand-built customs. He only made 2 of these prototypes. One had traditional black carbon fiber. This has the silver twill that you see here. Only one of each was made of those, so I feel very fortunate to have that. But you can see them side by side here, and they are virtually identical. The main differences are the lanyard hole is smaller on the HTM version. You have obviously a different overlay, and there are no visible screws on the show side of the knife like you have on the HTM. So it's been kind of reversed. They've screwed everything in from the back side. Not that that's an indication of quality or difference in price, just a difference in looks. The plunger style release and lock are a little bit different. Darrel's obviously here is custom. This is a plain one, but interestingly enough, so you lose the custom plunger, but you gain a custom pivot that was not here on his prototype. Now I'm very certain as he progressed and made the actual knives after the prototype, I'm very certain he would have had a custom pivot on there. You'll see the fuller is the same. Obviously a more complex grind that's been done here on the hand-built knife. Whereas this one has a simple fuller. You've got pretty much a center bevel here. The false edge on top. It's a very convincing false edge to it. It really does look like a double-edged knife. They did a great job with that. Nice, clean stone wash all the way through. And I would expect this to be a really strong blade on this knife. Nice tip to it. Very pointy, very stabby, very sharp. You will see Darrel's logo here, the DDR logo that we've all come to know and love. Then the HTM logo there, Handtech made. And then something that I feel is very important, I don't know that you really necessarily have to stamp it on the blade, but I think it's important to emblazon it somewhere with the Made in USA. Because again, you are looking at a production knife. And a lot of production knives, yes, they will come out of various countries, Japan, China. So it's nice to see US made. It's a big deal for a lot of people and for good reason. Now, talking more about the specs, it's a very lightweight knife because what you're looking at here is actually going to be an all aluminum frame. And the big deal with that is you're going to be getting into something that's very, very lightweight, easy to carry around. It's not going to be cumbersome. It's not going to be a pain in the butt to haul around. You're looking at just about 4.5 ounces. So it is an aluminum body. I know one website had it listed as aircraft aluminum. That's kind of a generic term these days. I'm going to assume it's T6 6061 aluminum. Very, very good, tough stuff. Rigid. Hard anodized. Great anodizing job. It's nice and clean. Sorry, my camera wants to pick up the knife in the background there. And there's another difference there between the prototype and the original. Still looks really, really good. And one thing that's on the production knife that is not on the proto that I really like a lot is the fact that the clip is reversible. I am not a tip down carry kind of guy. I just don't like it, particularly on an automatic, because depending on how you happen to grab it, you may actuate the release on the blade. This is an automatic, so that's not the kind of thing you want to happen. as you go to draw the knife. So I really like the fact that you could switch this over. It's your personal preference. They leave it up to you. You can carry a tip down, and I would rather grab it in my pocket, have my hand ready, and fire it super fast without changing my hand position by grabbing it like this and then having to swivel it in my hand, get it in position, and then do it. That's my big thing, and that's a personal thing, so I would just rather grab it and I'm ready to go. I really like the construction of it. It's a solid built knife. You know, this is like picking up, you know, a $300-400 ProTech side opening automatic. You know, you get that feeling of solidity. There's nothing rattling around. Actually, my watch is rattling, so let's do that with the non-watch hand. Everything's solid. You don't have to worry about any parts coming loose or, you know, rattling around in there. And, you know, we've all handled lesser expensive automatics that you would have that concern with. And, you know, honestly, sometimes in some of the more expensive automatics. I've not tested the sharpness, but that would not be a bad idea to do. So let me grab a little piece of paper here without bumping my camera off the tripod. And let's see what the factory edge on an HTM is really like. I'd say that's pretty darn good. A little bit of snag there at the end, but I think that's more me than the knife. Certainly acceptable, especially in this price range. I mean, you guys have seen me do this countless times with various knives, even $1,000 knives, hand-built customs, that would not come out of the sheath or out of the case and cut even that well at that price range. So it's always refreshing to see that it's going to have a useful edge on it once you receive it. All in all, if you're going to go out there and you're going to be looking for an automatic in the you know, $200 price range, honestly, it's scary. You've seen what's out there. I mean, when you start stepping into your better automatics, again, ProTech, Microtech, things like that, you know, even like a Microtech Ultratech. Now, it's an out-the-front knife, so it's a different category than this, but we're just talking automatics and price ranges. You're starting a little bit higher than this. When you start stepping down into the lower priced automatics, it can get a little bit sketchy. You know, there's success stories here and there, but there's also certainly going to be horror stories. And when you get into a knife that's really, you know, it's in this size, this is a good full-size knife. You've got a lot of weight that has to get swung out of there, and you can see how fast and how snappy that really is. I'm not a stiletto person myself, but I dig this concept of making it, again, a tactical stiletto. You know, it's not that gentleman's Italian stiletto that you would see that's very skinny, that's very slim, that it's somewhat cumbersome to deal with and difficult to you know, open the lock and close it up. It's a simple hit the pusher, hit the plunger, and hit the plunger again to release the lock. Very simple. And you've got a good grip here because they are swelling out the grip in the middle. And by adding the overlays especially, it gives you a little more this way. So it fits in the hand nicely. And this obviously acts as your finger guard. And you've got a little bit of room to purchase up here because you got to realize with this type of blade shape, with this type of tip, this is going to be a really, really good stabber. It's not really so much a slasher. It's got a nice edge to it, and just by the definition of the blade shape, this dagger style blade shape, you're going to have a little bit of belly to the blade, not much. You're not going to be doing a lot of EDC cutting tasks with a knife like this. This is really going to be, when you get down to it, your last ditch, oh shit, defense weapon. You know, this is when you're out of ammo or you can't reach your pistol, whatever, you know, your initial defensive weapon is going to be. Your pocket knife is usually going to be your last line of defense, and you can really reach for this and grab it, get a good handhold on it, lock it into place. It's going to be great for piercing. It certainly will cut, it will slash, but it's not really designed overly for that. It's really going to be a piercer. So in the hand, it feels great, and the way they've done this overlay, it almost feels rubberized with this lightning strike carbon fiber. So it's different than any lightning strike carbon fiber that I have. I'll give you a quick comparison to my Kirby Lambert. So you see it certainly has that glossy finish, more of a rubberized finish. You don't feel that at all on this. It gives you a certain degree of tactility to it, so it's going to stick in your hand a little bit more. And I'm going to have to assume that's why they did the application in the way that they did. And obviously, it's probably a cost-cutting measure. They're not screwing it in. I'm sure it's just epoxied in from the back side. So it gives you a little bit of a non-slip feel to it. It is easy to open and close with one hand. It's still not the preferred method on any automatic because anything can happen and you don't want to get your finger trapped in there, or you don't want to lose traction on the blade as you're trying to close it. Let's look at the quality of the components. Now, what HTM says is all of the wear parts, which would be in your pivot, your blade stops, things like that, are all going to be hardened steel. So they are heat treated to a certain degree to maintain their hardness. So you don't have to worry about that blade constantly slamming open against that blade stop. I don't know if he's utilizing, he utilized the same design in the prototype, but as you see, it's a much beefier blade stop that's in there. Can you see the external? No, you can't, but you can see the diameter of the blade stop in the prototype. They really followed his design really well. I mean, again, at a quick glance, you wouldn't even see the differences between the original and this. Now, I don't know what the customs have sold for. I obviously don't know what the prototype would be valued at today, so many years later. But it would be a damn sight more expensive than the Handtech made variation. Now, of the HTM knives, the only ones that I have ever personally handled are the Darrel Ralph designs. I have not handled any of the Lightfoots or the Lamberts or anything else to speak to their quality in general and to really talk about the consistency of their quality. But the thing is, Darrel is not going to align himself. I mean, he's really created a wonderful union, a wonderful partnership with HTM. And he wouldn't align himself to that degree with a company that could not produce consistently a high degree of quality. Now, Darrel did discuss with me before the knife arrived to me that there were some growing pains initially, that things were a little bit difficult, even on his end, even in his custom shop. He just made a big move to Texas recently, and there was a lot of setting up. There's a lot of additional work that has to be done. I know Neil Blackwood just made a move himself, and he'll tell you, it's probably not the easiest thing in the world to move your whole shop and all your machines and all your supplies and all that stuff and get settled in quickly. But I know he said there was some growing pains initially with the HTMs, and I guess there were maybe some quality control issues. Those I'm unaware of, but I have heard about them. And from what I've discovered recently, and again, I can't speak to 6 months ago, a year ago, 3 years ago, but I know the samples that I've personally handled over the past few months have exhibited no issues that I've been able to see. I haven't heard anything negative from anybody out there as far as forums or blogs or anything else in recent quality on the HTM work. So I'm going to have to assume that the quality level has gone up. Darrel says he's very, very happy with the quality output, the consistent quality control they're putting into the knives. And when you're hitting a price point like this and you're getting good solid materials, you're getting good aluminum. Again, no, it's not titanium, but this is going to help keep it really, really lightweight also. You're getting a nice custom pivot. You're getting a solid opening and locking device. You're getting nice materials for the inlays and overlays. You're getting a good quality blade. Again, 154 cm is not, a dream steel. It's not like S90 or SM100 or Talanite or anything like that. But it doesn't need to be. Again, this is not a $1,000 knife we're talking about here. We're really talking about something that's made to be used, made to be abused, carry in the pocket every day, and not shed a tear that, you're I guess, tearing up or abusing a much more expensive knife. I'm of the frame of mind, if I'm going to own it, it must be a usable tool, no matter how much I spent. You know, I don't really have a price cap that I put on myself, but, you know, whether it's a $20 knife or, I don't know, a $2,000 knife, it needs to work and it needs to be pocketable. So here's a knife that most people, and still $200 can be a great sum of money to a lot of collectors, especially ones that are starting out. But for many people, this is going to be that right price range where they can carry it guilt-free. If they get pocket wear marks on the anodizing or whatever else, it's not as big of a deal as maybe their $1,000 custom that, you know, they're not going to carry every single day. You want something that's comfortable, slim, a good enough size to be effective for the task at hand, but to be, as I like to say, pocketable. Small enough to carry in a pocket, not really notice it, not be cumbersome. And I think this really hits it. Now, I realize a lot of people watching right now are prohibited by their state laws. They're not able to carry an automatic, you know, and that sucks. You know, I lived in a state like that. I lived in a state where you could legally own one, but you could not carry one, even with a concealed weapons permit. Now I live in a state, I live in Florida, you know, we're allowed to. You know, you have to have a concealed carry permit to carry an automatic on your person, but there are no other, you know, ridiculous, crazy restrictions. But there are plenty of places that you're not even allowed to look at one sideways without fear of going to jail. So what I'm going to say is this. Not all the knives are going to be automatic. Daryl's got some great designs with HTM that are manual knives. Go check them out. It can't hurt. You know what I'm saying? Find yourself that great daily carry piece. If you can't afford to spend $800 or $1,500 on a Darrel Ralph custom, why not check out one of the HTM variations? They do the gun hammer, they do all these great designs, and they're able to produce them at an affordable price, but still give you high quality. Especially, and I gotta say, on the gun hammers, the quality is phenomenal. The blade steel choices, the handle materials, everything is done very, very, very well. Now, you could also start crawling up in price there as you start getting a little bit more, you know, a little bit more exotic, but you're still getting an affordable alternative to getting into one of his customs. So if you've never had a chance to see any of Daryl's work, I do suggest you hit up his website, hit up HTM's website as well, and see the wonderfully creative things that he's released to the public. You know, we all know about the Expendables AXD that was in the movie The Expendables. Jason Statham was using it. That's the knife that he punctured the basketball with. That's Daryl's. If you didn't know that badass knife, that was Daryl's, man. So yeah, check out the wicked, crazy, cool stuff that man is capable of pulling off. And if that level isn't right where you're at this point, take a look and see what HTM has available. I think you're going to be very pleasantly surprised. All right, guys, I'm going to get on out of here for now. I got a couple more videos to churn out, so I will see you on the next Guest Blade.